We are Mike and Jeannie, and we restore old houses. In 2021, we moved to South Carolina and bought a 120-year-old Victorian house. Follow along as we put the polish back on this Victorian masterpiece.
Welcome back to 1834 Restoration House.
We are back in the wood shop today, which is actually serving as a metal shop because we're building ductwork for our Victorian house.
We use what we got.
That's right. I have some stuff prepared and set aside. Let's go take a look and see what we have.
Today's program is sponsored by the generous support of our patrons. Your support helps to further our historic preservation efforts. For more information, visit patreon.com/1834 Restoration House.
This is one of the ducts that we assembled in last week's video. Now, I need to be able to get the air from the square duct into the round flex ducts that are under the house currently. Well, you can't just do like that, but you can do like this. So if I mount this to the top, the air will come through the duct, it'll change direction and go out here into the flex ducts. Great. But wait a minute, what about this end right here? That's wide open. So what I'm going to do is, using the sheet metal skills that I showed you last week, I'm going to fabricate an end cap and put that on here so that will stop the air from popping out the end. This is the scrap metal that was left over from the last project, and I did some calculating and measuring off camera just to see what would work, and it turns out that I have enough material here to make 2 end caps. And I went ahead and laid those out. These are all my cut marks and bend marks. So let's go ahead and put this up here. And then I'm going to separate all of these. I'll cut that off. I'll cut off the excess here, drop these 2 in half, and cut off whatever little bit of excess has to come off here. And we'll have 2 pieces to work with. Okay, I have to do a little bit more work here. So let's put this on here and bend it back like that. It's always that first little bit getting it started that's hard. Okay, you see what I did there? I folded it back on itself like that. Now we'll do the other side real quick. And finally, we'll give it a squeeze. Okay, that looks great. All right, beautiful. Well, if we did everything correctly, this should fit perfect. So I'm going to get that tab in place and get that tab in place. Oops. So I'm doing the end tabs first. I want these two cleat tabs here to touch each other. So I'm going to go ahead and just start pushing it in. Like that. Nice and easy, just work it down in there. Well, I think that's a success. It needs to be adjusted slightly, but yeah, I think it'll work. So I have S-cleats here, which these two are just sitting in like this. And I have my drive cleat tabs here, and so I need to go ahead and get some drive cleats, and I just happen to have a couple over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and slip that on like that. And sometimes you gotta hit them with a hammer, but these ones here seem more than willing to go by themselves. So that worked out all right. Okay, now let's try another one. Okay, great. Everything's locked in. Now this end cap is locked in place. So now I'm going to go ahead and just knock those tabs down. If you watched last time, what's the next thing that has to be done? Putting in screws. Now that everything is screwed together, I'm going to go ahead and put some mastic tape on there and seal up the corner. It's going to be difficult to try to get that to lay down perfectly because there's so many lumps and bumps under here. But what's important is that it doesn't leak. All right, let's go ahead and put some tape on this edge here. And I'm going to actually apply it to the cleat first. And then I'm going to just kind of roll it down in so that it makes contact with the duct. And then once I have that, then I can go ahead and press this down like that. Now, I always like to burnish the tape just a little bit with some kind of a tool. Last week we used a piece of wood. Today I'm using one of these just because it's here. But that makes the tape lay down nice, and it also helps to keep it completely sealed. It closes up any gaps or tunnels that happen to be under the tape surface. All right, now let's do the bottom side. Whoops. I think I just about lost that one there, so I'm going to go ahead and roll it down. No, it'll be fine. Roll it down like that. And then press it into place. I'll go ahead and do that to the other 3 sides. There's a drill bit that's permanently embedded in this thing because I was trying to drill a pilot hole. The bit broke and I wasn't able to retrieve it, so it is permanently taped in place and will never be seen again. Okay, let's go ahead and cross break this one. Beautiful. You can see the difference in the texture of the edge. This is a kind of a sawtooth look, and those were cut with these little snips. But then I switched to the bigger snips, and when I did that, this edge here was much smoother and much nicer. Trouble is, these are hard to put into the cleats, so I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't clean that up a little bit by crushing it. Yeah, there we go. That seems to help a little bit. That just makes the edges a little less jagged. Like that. Like that. Come back and crush it. Let's put this thing together. And drop the first tab in there and the second tab in here. And just start walking it down in. Nice and easy. Like that. Okay, now it is very possible that the duct could be slightly trapezoidal. So I need to adjust it so that it's not a trapezoid, like that. Okay, now that gets everything all nicely lined up and square. Okay, now the S cleats that are on the side They're just basically holding this in place. What's going to lock it in are the drive cleats, which I have over here. I have 2 of these. So I'll go ahead and get this one started on here. Like that. Okay, there's one. I'll do the other one off camera. All right, I'll bend these tabs over like that. And then I'm just going to give everything a good tap to make sure everything is seated properly. And I'll drop in a couple of screws. I'm cutting some mastic tape that I'm going to put in the corners. I'm trying to pull the backing off of it. That leaves us with the sticky mastic layer on the back and the foil tape on the front. So we'll go ahead and just lay it on the corner like that. That's going to seal up the corner and keep the air in the box where it belongs. And I'm just using a tool to burnish it down and make sure that it's completely sealed. That stops air leaks, but it also helps it look better too. And that screw that I put in, it's embedded down in there. These ducts are going into the existing system which is under the house. I'm going to a lot of trouble to seal them up and make them airtight. Yet the ducts that are in place right now are so leaky that it's amazing they even work. So why am I going to so much trouble building a bridge to an existing system under the house? Well, because this bridge, I'm trying to build it to proper standards so that one day the rest of the system under the house could be replaced. And the part that we build today, we don't have to worry about because we know that it was built right. The corners are taped. Now let's do the cleats. I wanted to give you a more visual example of what it is we're trying to achieve here. So right now the AC unit sits up against the wall of the house, that's the brick, and it comes out under the house, and then there's a big flex duct that takes off and goes off to points unknown. Now what I'm trying to do is build this bypass so that I can get through that area. We're going to take off the flex duct. That box that we built a couple of weeks ago is going to go right here. That's our first transition. And then there's another transition which we haven't yet built, and that's going to angle up like that. And that brings us to this, which is another section of rectangular duct that we haven't done anything with other than build it. It's off in the other room right now. So that will connect here, and then this rectangular duct will connect to this rectangular duct, which is this one. So we have the end cap, which we just installed here, and then we're going to put a collar under here, and when we're finished, we'll reconnect the flex duct there, and that will hook the system back up and build that bridge that we need. The sole purpose for doing that is so that I can crawl under here and get to the parts of the house that I currently can't get to. It's a lot of work, but it's got to be done. Well, the last thing we have to do to prepare this piece of ducting is to get ready to install a collar on it. And so the way these things work is basically just a hole, a flange, and then the actual collar. The flex duct slips down over that, and then is cable tied on with some very large cable ties, and then taped to keep the duct from leaking. The first thing I need to do is locate the collar where I want it to be. I want it to be in the middle here, and I want it to be a few inches back from the end. And so what that's going to do is the air is going to come flying through the duct like that. It's going to hit the end, and it will build up some pressure, causing the air to come out sideways like that. Now that I have it where I want it, I'm going to mark the inside perimeter with a pen. And there's our cutout line. So you ask, how am I going to cut that out? Well, very simple. I use a drill, right? No? Yes. First thing I do is I cut a little hole. Now I go at it with a step drill. And yes, I hate punching holes in my brand new sheet metal. These snips here are known as two-way snips. So you can snip this way, or you can snip the other way. Either way you can snip. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab myself a chunk of meat here. Now I'm going to come back here and take advantage of that relief that I just cut there and see if I can just work my way up to where the line is. And so it wants to cut to the left mostly. It seems that these snips that the HVAC supply sold us have the little jaws, and they're just not very effective. So I wish that we had gotten the ones with longer jaws. See, I can kind of pull it up like that, basically kind of destroy it, which is okay. We don't need that piece. Our goal is to get it out of here. So I just kind of keep working this. It's going to take some time. Well, through a combination of nibbling, grabbing and pulling, nibbling and repeating, I managed to get all the way around it. Now the thing is that in order for this to cut properly, the metal that comes off there has to curl up and away from it, and it can't possibly do that when it's thick, heavy, and it's solid. There's just no place for it to go. So I had to get the center cut out. Now that I've got that, I can come back in here and start working my way around like this. So just get in there and just start going at it. Now you see how the sheet metal is moving away and upward and off into the middle. So I can continue going around like this with no problem whatsoever. So as long as that curl keeps going away from me, I'll be okay. And it might need a little help from time to time, like that. But I should be able to get all the way around here with no problem. And when I get done, I'm going to have a nice metallic spiral to show for it. As promised, here's the spiral and there is the hole. Now, did you know that tin snips operate on the principles of calculus? That's right. The principles of calculus say that you can represent any curve with a series of minutely small straight lines. And that's exactly what we did here. A lot of little straight cuts all the way around and made a nice perfect circle. Okay, there's a self-adhesive strip on here. It's kind of a foamy insulation gasket, if you will. So I'm going to pull the backer off. And now I'll just set this on here so it's fairly round, and I want to have the mounting screws kind of where they need to be. So yeah, so that's about what we want. So now I just press it down like that. And let's get some screws in there. About the time they bite, it's about the time to let go of the trigger. Any more than that, I'm going to end up just stripping it out. So I stop right about then. Now, being the engineer that I am, I'm going to go ahead and put a few more in for good measure. Okay, that's good, really, really good. A lot of these collars are designed to have dampers put in them, and a damper really is just a flat metal plate on a spindle that moves open and closed, and so you can damper down or open it up. In our case, this system will be completely wide open. But I'm going to go ahead and cut a couple of these, and I want to put some patches over those so the air doesn't leak out. All right, it's time to start the next one, but before we do that, I want to show you something. We were thinking about how this is going to play out when it's actually being installed. So because you've got two parallel ducts like this, and then you have two flex ducts coming in at right angles to it, if you have two of these right next to each other, you're not going to be able to get two ducts in to connect with these. So we decided that we're going to do an offset. So this one here is close to the end that has the cover on it. Well, here's the end with the cover. So we've moved this over to here, and that's going to give us enough room so the one duct will land here, the other duct will land right there. All right, let's go ahead and get that drawn. And I am going to cut that out. All right. The first part was the hardest because I had to literally take the sheet metal and just, bend it all out of shape just to get it out of the way. Once I got past the halfway mark, then I was able to just start pulling up on it because it would pull. So with that done, now I can go back here and start cutting in, and then I'll just follow the line. So we'll do that like this. I intercept the line, and then I stay on it all the way around. That's a really good workout for the forearm. All right, we didn't show this on the last go around, but whenever I use anything that has any adhesive, I like to just clean the surface first, make sure there's no oil or dirt. Being extra careful around these sharp edges here. And then we'll just let that dry. If you look down inside here, you can see where the collar meets the rectangular duct, and there's a sharp edge there. Now that sharp edge could cause us some problems. It could whistle, and we don't want whistling ducts. That's really annoying. And the other thing is it might cause some airflow issues where you get turbulence, and turbulence is bad too for airflow. So here's what I'm going to do to fix that. I measured off a piece of mastic tape that's the exact circumference of this. I'm going to go ahead and cut it right down the middle. Now, the reason I cut it so thin is because a thin strip will go around a compound curve much easier than a thicker one will. And there's going to be a little bit of deformation as it goes because I'm basically going to be doing like this, all the way around in a curve. And so it's going to get a little messy, but because it's so malleable, I can go ahead and smooth it out and make it look pretty decent. Well, the fact that we need two of these is a bonus. One for this duct and one for that other duct over there, and we don't waste material. The last thing we have to do to these ducts before they're ready to go is we have to apply a mastic paste. And the reason is there's a junction right here between this piece of sheet metal and this piece of sheet metal, and it's not airtight. So the mastic will get in there and it'll provide a seal for a lifetime and keep all of the air inside the duct and not allow it to leak. Now the other thing too is I have this gasket right here, but I don't know that this gasket is 100% leak proof. So I'm going to go ahead and put some mastic on there just as well as a kind of a insurance policy. Now, because we like to do things nicely and not sloppily, I'm going to go ahead and apply some masking tape on here. And that way we can just brush the mastic on and pull the tape when we're finished and have a nice professional look. And at last, it's time for duct mastic. So this is a goopy stuff. It's kind of like drywall mud in texture, maybe a little bit thinner. But this stuff here will seal up ductwork wherever you can't use tape. So I've got this seam right here. I'm going to go ahead and slather some on in there. And I just want to get it up inside the seam. So all this work that we're doing is going to make these ducts nice and tight. I'm also making sure I get the rivets there. Okay, very good. So we are taped up inside, and we have mastic here, and I'm going to go ahead and apply mastic to the outside now. So I want to make sure that I get it down inside that seam, because that's where it's going to leak if it's going to leak. And I'm also putting some on here. Now you notice that I have tape there, and because we want to make sure that everything is as nice looking as we can make it. So I'm just applying the mastic now. I'm applying a thick enough coat of paste here that it will seal up. And right now I don't care what it looks like. I just want to get the mastic down in there. Once it's all in place, I'm going to go ahead and take the brush and just smooth it out and just make it look nice. Like that. Then I'll come back in a couple of minutes after I get done over there and peel the tape off. Okay, they are done and ready to go. So let's work on peeling these off of here. It's kind of ironic because I do this kind of stuff at work once in a while, so I have a bit of experience with it. Now we just want to peel that off. You notice I have gloves on because I'm going to get it on me eventually. Okay, there's the top side. And there we have it. A little bit of mastic slopped on there, but that's not the end of the world because it comes off with water. While it's still wet. But after it's cured for 48 hours, you have to use a special solvent to get it off.
Wow, these look really good.
Well, thank you. I'm not a professional HVAC guy. I'm not a professional sheet metal guy, but whatever I do around here, I try to do a good job. And I think these will get the job done for us.
I think so. They look beautiful.
Thank you. It's kind of too bad that they have to be hidden down in the dark where no one will ever see them.
After all the work and
After all
effort,
the work.
yes.
But you know, that's what a true craftsman will do is no matter what it is or where it is, they're going to try to do a nice job no matter what, whether it's seen or not, because they see it, they know they built it.
Right.
And I like to try to follow that ethic. Anyway, guys, well, I really appreciate you coming by and watching this. I know it's not restoration, but it is part of the restoration of this house. And we have a whole lot more projects coming. But first, we need to get through this one. So next time we meet, hopefully, we'll be installing these under the house.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for watching 1834 Restoration House.